What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new Pokemon Duel video. Today we are going to be talking about Metagross, or just generally a case against Pokemon that counters specific metas and using your materials or any other means to go ahead and acquire them right when they come out. Let's get right into it. So basically, just a very short time ago, we had an almost auto-inclusion of Metagross on every single team, and this was specifically to counter one or two Pokemon, namely Reuniclus and Deoxys attack form. If you take a look at its spinner, it's not really that bad. You have a small little 30 damage Bullet Punch, you have two 90s, which are Metal Claw, you have a decent shot at dodging, and then finally a 150 damage monstrous Hyper Beam. So it's definitely not bad by any means. But it's not something you want to auto-include in most decks now, as of right now today. The reason for this is that the meta has changed as a general whole. Now, obviously, there are going to be people that run Cosmo Energy Deoxys decks till the end of Pokemon Duel, and I definitely think that that's going to be a powerful deck until the end of Pokemon Duel. But as we know, it's not as powerful as it once was. Definitely not Cosmo Energy, but even as far as the actual figures themselves aren't as powerful as they were. So we don't have one of the main counters, which was Deoxys attack form, nearly as big of a stranglehold on the meta. It doesn't have as much of a power in the meta, so you don't necessarily want to run it to counter that Pokemon in particular. Now, if we look over to Reuniclus, they have been almost completely removed from the meta. The defensive powers of it were mainly what sold it as a very powerful Pokemon. Having the triple chance, I mean, that was ridiculous. Let alone if you have the offensive and you use a double chance on it, you can literally get anything that you want with almost an 80 to 90% certainty of it. So those Pokemon have been absolutely decimated by their nerfs. They're not valuable at all. They're not used very much at all. It's not something I've seen in any matches since they've actually got nerfed. So mainly the usage of Metagross was to counter it, and that usage has been largely removed from the game. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys that bought him for 4,000 materials aren't upset with your purchase, but I think if I were to actually have bought him with materials, I pulled him twice, so I really didn't have to worry about it. And I was gonna actually buy him, but I got him last second, so I didn't actually have to buy him with materials, so I can't say for certain. But if I had actually bought him with materials, I would be a very upset person right now, considering that largely its ability is only built to counter certain Pokemon, and those Pokemon were nerfed to make it so they don't have as high of a meta share. So overall, its usage is just, in general usability as a whole, is just very low. Now, obviously, Metagross could actually be more usable in the future. We could see Pokemon come out that actually have amplified, just ridiculous power levels because of respins in some way, or forced respins in some way. We could possibly see that. We could see almost a reverse Reuniclus, where you can actually respin your opponent multiple times based on the amount of Pokemon figures of a certain kind are on the board. I mean, that would be absolutely ridiculous, and it would give Metagross a reason to further be used again. But right now, it's just not really that usable. And that's really always the issue with these types of purchases. Now, if Reuniclus wasn't actually decimated, I would actually venture to say that people would still be using it, and that generally it would still be considered a decent enough team that you might want to consider running Metagross. But you can never know how they're actually going to nerf certain oppressive figures in this type of game, or really in any type of competitive game that actually has balance patches of some kind. Now, if you don't want to play Deoxys, or you don't want to play Reuniclus, or you didn't back then when Metagross was updated to have this ability, I definitely respect the decision to go ahead and grab a Metagross, but I still can't recommend, even in those cases, that you use your materials on it for such a small issue generally, because the materials are super hard to come by. Obviously, most people don't get very many of them every month unless they spend a lot of money on them. So I would recommend personally that unless you guys are going to be going for new powerful meta units or teams that are built on sort of working with each other, sort of like the Cosmo Energy decks were, that you don't go for these anti-meta units. They're going to be just ridiculously unusable after a certain point, and I think we really start to see that with Metagross. You just don't see him used anymore. Obviously, in the future, in gyms, he could be competitive. With a movement point increase, I do think that with 2 movement points, he would actually be somewhat usable. And even with 1 movement point, I mean, he's not bad. Again, he's something that you might see early on in the game or against people that haven't gotten anything better to replace him with. But 1 movement point is such a ridiculous barrier to entry as far as what you're going to be putting on your team now. And it doesn't counter the meta, so you probably won't use it anymore unless it's going to be in a gym, or if it gets buffed, or if somehow it fits into your deck. I'm eager to hear your opinions on this because it's something that I've heard a lot about and heard a lot of people talk about. And before the nerfs came out, I heard a lot of people recommending that you use your materials to buy Metagross up until the day before they announced those nerfs. So it's something that's a little bit undiscussed in this community as a whole, I think, and something that's probably worth bringing up so people don't get suckered into it in the future. So that's going to be about it for the topic at hand, guys, but a lot of you have been bothering me about going ahead and checking out my whole collection of figures, so I figured we might as well go figured we might as well go ahead and just show it off. So obviously we've got a lot of birds. We've got Trevenant, we've got Sceptile, we've got Dragonite, we got a couple Reshurams, I've pulled so many Delphoxes, guys. We're working on building our Latios and Latias group up. Obviously, I only have 2 of each right now. We're working on 3 so we can make the riskiest team in the game. A little bit of an updated challenge for it, though, so that'll be a lot of fun. We've got Raikou, which I was actually really happy to pull because it's going to get a buff in the future. Let's be real here. It will definitely be buffed at some point. We've got Zekrom, obviously. We've got 3 Sorteras, which will be a very fun challenge, again, in the future. But look out for that because it's not going to be too far off. We're going to be using some Torterras in some ranked matches. So, fun stuff. Not going to talk too much about it, though. Let's see. We've got Heatran, Manaphy, Deoxys Normal. We've got 2 Gardevoirs. We've got Lucario, Empoleon, Garchomp. We got this absolute monster Rhyperior, which I'm super hyped about. We've got Greninja, we've got Chestnut, we've got a couple Yvetals that I'm working on stockpiling for a dark deck that I'm super hyped to build. We've got Xerneas, obviously. We've got Giratina there, which I really hope gets a buff in the Ghost Gym, which is probably going to be not too far off, I don't think. Maybe the next one or the one after that, possibly anyways. I think Gengar is going to be coming with it very soon anyways. We got Keldeo, which I'd like to get 2 more of to try a very fun deck with. We got Zygarde, we've got Mew, we've got Blastoise, we've got 2 of the Hoenn Trio, which I'd love to get Rayquaza to fill that out and do a fun challenge video with, but we'll see. We've got 2 Ho-Ohs, we've got 2 Metagrosses, and a Dialga. We've also got a whole bunch of cubes and some rare metals and ingots that I need to sell, so not too much else there. We've got a bunch of rares. I'm not going to go over every single one. I think that as far as notable ones, probably my most notable rares are my Gyarados. They're just so powerful. I've got an almost 2 chain level Flygon, which I'm okay with. I mean, it will be useful at certain points in the future, obviously. We've got 3 Tentacruels, which I'm working on getting 6 of them so we can do a real fun deck with Tentacools. So that'll be fun. We got Sneasel, which is going to be great for the dark deck. We've got... another thing, guys. We need just 1 more Pinsir, and I'm going to be able to do some Bugbot. God, I just slurred all those words together. We're going to be able to do a Bugbot video, Bugbot challenge. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for that one. You can see my collection of Cube Uncommons, which I'm collecting to spend on something good, you know? Just some good Uncommon. It's going to come out again. We're going to get a great Uncommon at some point in the near or distant future, I would imagine. We pulled Noibat, which I'd love to pull a Noivern so we can try him out in a video. That would be awesome. Not spending materials on him, though. Definitely not worth it. We got the early forms of Reuniclus. We have a whole bunch of garbage. We've got a chain level 1 Shuppet, which is pretty okay. It's not great, but it works out pretty well for some competitive play. Just sort of making it so you can threaten surround kills and everything. That makes it so you end up playing much better when you're playing defensively, when you have that threat on board. Moving forward, we got Pupitar, which I'm working on chain leveling this Pupitar. I might actually spend a bunch on it because I really do like Pupitar into Tyranitar. I think it's a very powerful evolution. We're going to try Rhydon into Rhyperior. I think that's going to be a fun one as well in the upcoming gym. Look at his spinner. That's actually not a bad spinner. 60 Stomp and Horn Drill, which just straight up knocks out your opponent. This Pokemon can move up to 2 steps in a straight line. I mean, that's not bad. Its ability is good. Its Stomp is pretty decent, especially in a gym. And Horn Drill is pretty fantastic as a purple. So overall, I like that a lot. Just keep on scrolling through. We got this Poliwhirl, absolute legend. Can definitely be used in a lot of different metas. And in the future will be probably one of the most future-proofed Pokemon. Even though its power is going to be negligible, in certain metas it will be useful because you'll be almost guaranteed to go up against a miss against certain figures. So we'll try him out in the future. I'd imagine he'll have a very competitive spot at some point. We got a bunch of other garbage. Let's see. We're going to be trying out a poison team in the near future in a future video, so I'm pretty hyped about that one. Actually, I had some Crobats up here if you guys didn't see it, so let's see. Where are they? There we go. We got 2 Crobats, so pretty happy about that one. Love Crobat's ability. Think it's going to be a lot of fun to play some poison type teams. So we'll try it out in the future. Again, a lot of stuff to talk about here. If you guys see any strategies you would like me to do, make sure you drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, we've also got Golem. Golem's a fun Pokemon. Very powerful for an uncommon. So we'll probably try him out as well in the future. So yeah, that's pretty much my collection overall. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to talk about as far as commons are concerned. I mean, they're really just whatever. It's not a big deal. But yeah, fun stuff. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Hope to see you back here for the next video very, very shortly. And until then, peace.